Hey everybody, we're located in downtown Troy, Pennsylvania. We are here today with the Children's House. I have with us Miss Brittany Mink. She's going to tell us a little bit about what they do, and then we're going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at their facilities located in Towanda by the Guthrie Hospital. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Brittany, can you tell us just a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah, so the Children's House is a child-friendly facility where kids come to receive a coordinated approach to their child abuse investigation. So when there is an outcry of abuse, children get referred to the Children's House for all of the services that they would need under one roof.
We all know bad stuff happens. We wish it wouldn't, but it has to be dealt with. It's being enforced more and more as society progresses. This is also a National Child Abuse Prevention Month. I just picked this up this morning. The Daily Review did a great story on it. I would encourage you to look at it. I got involved with Brittany when she came to us. They have a program where local restaurants partner with them to try to raise funds. We sat down for a little bit. I grilled you with a bunch of questions. And I thought, you know what, we've got to do more. They raised $8,000 last year in their fundraising effort. Folks, I want to crush that number this year. So what Building 9 is going to do, we're going to match any donation through the Troy area up to $1,000. So if people donate up to $750, we're going to match $750. So I'm encouraging everyone to take a minute, watch the video, and reach into your pocketbook and see if you can donate to this great cause. So, Brittany, you have a beautiful facilities. What we want to do is give the people a behind-the-scenes look of why we're requesting money and where that money goes to. I think that's important anytime you reach your hand out, not you, but anyone, so that you know where it is. You know, you go to a convenience store or a big box store or what have you. Do you want to donate? Do you want to donate? Well, I don't even know what it's for, but this will give people an opportunity to see where their money goes.
Right.
So, Brittany, we're going to start with a little history on this location. How long has it been here? How long, what's the involvement? How did it get started?
Yeah, so we've been here almost 40 years. A group of professionals and concerned community citizens got together and formed what's called the Bradford County Child Sexual Abuse Task Force. And in that, they wanted a place for children to come to be interviewed when allegations of sexual abuse came up. And so the task force had applied for a grant with the assistance of Children and Youth Services here in Bradford County to secure the grant to the facility that we're standing in today. So again, been here almost 40 years.
Awesome, and so that would have been around the time that the Towanda Hospital was here, and then Guthrie acquired the Towanda Hospital, and they're gracious enough to continue it. What does something like this cost to rent?
So with our partnership with Guthrie, we are incredibly appreciative of their support and the work that they do for us, and so we are able to lease the property for $1 a year.
$1 a year? Mm-hmm. That's a good deal.
It is.
Thank you, Guthrie.
Yes.
That's awesome. So this is where the children come in. This is the first thing they'll see.
Yep, so the families will walk up the walkway that we did when we got in here, and this is the first room that they come into. And it's supposed to be a child-friendly facility, so you'll see the games, the toys, things that make them feel comfortable. We have TVs, have their favorite shows on, and that's just so they get acquired to the space, that they feel comfortable being here. And that's when our advocacy services start to kick in.
Trying to put them at ease for the process that they're about to go through. And as we go through this tour, you're going to see what a great facility it is and what a great job that you guys do. So tell me a little bit about this room.
So this is the forensic interview room. And so when an allegation of abuse comes out, law enforcement and child protective services refer that case to the Children's House. So we see cases of child sexual abuse, commercial sexual exploitation of children, or more commonly known as human trafficking, severe physical abuse, witness to violent crimes, so like domestic violence or homicides. Really any case where a child is involved in, they have to give a statement to. And that's where this room comes into play. So instead of them having to go to the law enforcement barracks,
State police barracks, community police room, which can be really intimidating and scary.
Yep. The goal is to have the child only talk to one person one time. And before children's advocacy centers were around, kids would have to go to about 9 different places and talk to 15 different people. More trauma, right? And so the Children's House is here to reduce that trauma and limiting the number of times the child has to recount their experience.
That's great.
And so here in the interview room, we have on staff trained forensic interviewers who sit down with a child and get their experience in their own words. And so we have the cameras and the microphones that help make a recording, and that's used as evidence for the investigation. The interview is child friendly. The child will come in, they'll get to tell their story in their own words, but before they get to that,
I want to hear about this.
What do you like to do? So I'm a stranger, they don't know what, they don't know me, but I want to know you at a personal level. So what do you like to do? And then I get to learn all about them playing soccer. And we do a narrative practice where they tell me everything about something that they enjoy. So the last time that you played soccer, tell me everything about that from beginning, middle to end. And we call that the narrative practice because that piece plays into the substantive phase of that interview, the why are they here. We go over rules of the room with them, so if they don't know an answer, it's okay to say they don't know. If they don't understand, we can ask questions in different ways, and then they tell the truth. They make a promise to tell the truth. And
they're interviewed by professionals that, as you just described, they don't lead, they don't try to get a certain side, they just want the truth.
Yep, so it's all in their own words by using open-ended questions, and so tell me more about, and then that's how the child fills in those blanks. And so the child isn't introduced any evidence or any part of the allegation, they tell us what happened to them.
Yeah, and this is a great room to do it in. It's decorated very nicely, it's not intimidating, you're not walking into a police barracks with a bunch of guys walking around with badges, you're not walking into a courthouse that can be scary. This is great. Yeah,
and so while this interview is going on, it's being fed, like we talked about the recording, it's being fed via closed circuit television to our observation room. And that's where our partners in law enforcement and child protective services sit in and watch that live as it's happening.
Yeah, that's great. And we're going to see that room too coming up.
Yep.
All right. So what's the next phase?
The next step would be to our medical room.
All right, well let's go there.
Yeah. This is our medical room. So whereas in our forensic interview, those are only offered to children 3 to 18 or adults with developmental disabilities, our medical exams are open to kids 0 to 18. And that's just because of the linguistic abilities of kids and if they're able to speak. But our medical exam is offered to every child that walks through our doors. It's a head-to-toe physical exam, much like a child would see at a pediatrician's office. And so we offer these any time of the day, night.
Something could happen in the middle of the night. You could get a call from law enforcement or parent or whomever.
Yep.
And then you guys come in and you act.
Yep, and that's another part where Guthrie's partnership comes into play. We have 2 trained nurses who know what to look for when investigating a case of child sexual abuse. And so that's really important, 2 of them. And so they provide the exams here on site, as opposed to having to go and sit in the emergency room and then having to wait for them to get called in. They have this whole facility all to themselves.
Yeah, and you go to the emergency room and there's all kinds of people walking by and it's just really scary. And these 2 trained medical staff they've been trained and they have experience.
Yep. We have that. One of our providers have been here almost as long as we've been in existence.
Is that right?
So yes, we're
That's
really
awesome.
grateful for Joan and Guthrie's partnership.
Thank you, Joan. This looks like an interesting piece of equipment. Can you tell us a little bit about this?
So this is our Cortex Flow camera system. This is how our medical providers capture the anatomy of a child if they need to collect evidence. So if a child presents with any physical marks, bruising, scars,
scrapes.
Cuts, nicks, things like that, we use this camera to take pictures of the anatomy at the time that they're here. And this can be used as evidence. It's password encrypted, it doesn't go anywhere. And it just gives a snapshot of what the body looked like at the time of the exam.
And again, it's used in evidence.
Yes, yep. This is a state-of-the-art piece of equipment. The emergency departments don't have this. They have a camera, but not as
Sophisticated, detailed.
sophisticated as this. Yep. So that we have the microphone here on top, where we can tell the device to take a picture. We can say capture, and it will snapshot. We can rename the word to be giraffe, and every time we say giraffe, it can take a picture, so it doesn't make it seem like we're taking pictures of them.
So it's not as invasive.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so our nurses and providers, they can annotate things, and just a really great tool to have.
That's great.
If we're talking about exams that need to happen when an incident just occurred, so we're talking within 120 hours an incident has happened, there's the potential for evidence to be collected. And so we have the evidence kits here that we can collect that evidence and send off to be tested. But in that, we have a full-size bathroom here that if a child needs to get a shower after their incident has happened, after we've collected that evidence, they can get a shower and get some new clothes and be on their way.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Where are we going to go next?
Next would be to our family meeting room.
Family meeting room. Very good. So this is the family interview room or family waiting room. What would this room be designated?
So this is our family meeting room. So after the interview is conducted and after the medical exam is done, families are wondering, what is the next steps in my case? What is going to happen? And this is the space where that conversation takes place. And law enforcement and children and youth services come into this room and they meet with the caregiver away from the child. So the child's in the waiting room still playing with the toys, engaged that way, that they can have some harsh, frank conversations with the family about what the next steps are in the investigation.
Okay.
And this used to be the forensic interview room originally, and we've revamped the space a little bit, and so some of the projected projects that are coming up within the next year is to make the space a little bit more friendly, both this room and the interview room, as we kind of switch around the office building a little bit.
Sure. So you have a nice collection of games, puzzles, toys, stuffed animals.
And this is all community support. This is really one of the big ways that the community gets involved in. After all of the services are concluded here at the center, the direct services, children get to pick out a comfort item, whether that be a toy or a stuffed animal. They get to take something with them afterwards as they leave their appointment.
And community support meaning people drop stuff off, or?
Yep, we either take in-kind or monetary donations sometimes be used to replenish these items as we get low.
All right. So Brittany, this room's pretty high tech. What do we have going on here?
So this is our observation room. And so this is where our investigators come for their case. So as you and I came up the front, our investigators came in through the bottom door in our admin area to our observation room. And so you have law enforcement and children and youth and sometimes our medical, the district attorney's office come and they sit in here to watch the interview as it's happening. So the Children's House doesn't investigate cases of child abuse. We're just an aid to the investigation.
You facilitate it.
Yes, yep. And so you have the team that's watching and observing the interview live as it happens. The interviewer will take a break near the end of the interview, come down, check with the investigators to see if there's any questions they might have missed.
Want to revisit something?
Right. Do we need any clarity on some things? And then they'll go back up and finish the investigation and finish that interview.
It's technology is pretty expensive.
It is.
It adds up.
It is. It does.
Adds up, and that's where you need the funding to continue to upgrade and make sure everything is done right.
We also have we have a secure facility, as you know, like we have to buzz in to get into the building.
Yeah.
But this allows the investigators to see what's going on at the Children's House when services are being rendered. So we get to see who's coming to the front door, and that way, because alleged offenders or those listed as a suspect on a case are not allowed on site, and so our partners are able to see who's coming to the facility and if they need to intervene.
And if someone is here that shouldn't be, they're not allowed in, and they're taken care of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Here is our conference room area. This is where we have our multidisciplinary team case reviews. So every month we meet with what we call our multidisciplinary team. So that's law enforcement, that's children and youth services, medical, mental health, advocates, the forensic interviewer, and the district attorney's office. So everybody basically who's involved in the case comes to this table, and we talk about the cases, the progression, what questions do we have, what barriers are we facing, how can we best serve this family to make an informed decision about their case, and what's in the best interest of the child.
Yeah, because ferreting through all of the incidents is very important. We have to get to the truth, and it takes a lot of different people to sort through that, and it's good to see that in this area it's not just one person.
Someone might have had a conversation that another party doesn't know about, and so bringing that, hey, I had a conversation with this family, this is what they're experiencing, allows the family to get their voice at the table. But then also, the investigators are understanding of what's everybody's role and what's going on, and that way they can move forward with their investigation.
So here you mentioned we have the therapy area. This is towards the end of everything?
Yep, so our advocates here on site provide referrals to therapy, and we have 2 certified nationally trained trauma therapists who are trained and certified in trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, or TFCBT. And so at their time of the appointment, when they're upstairs getting direct services, the family is offered an opportunity, if they would like therapy, to get that referral. And our trauma therapy is a short intensive therapy, 18 to 25 sessions or so, where the child is able to learn coping mechanisms about their trauma and how to deal with that trauma in a healthy way. And then they're able to graduate, and then we can refer them to a general counselor as they move forward.
So it's not just investigation, here you are, you're on your own. You continue to care for the child and somewhat the family to help them all get through something like this.
Right, and so that's where that therapy component kicks in, is the child's not only learning healthy coping mechanisms, but the parents and the caregivers, how are you parenting through this trauma? And so that's where the therapy is really beneficial.
Yeah. That's great.
And we don't bill insurance. This is offered completely free of service, regardless of insurance. We don't do co-pays. It's just the service that we offer.
And it's offered free of service, but you're not able to offer that if people don't donate.
Right. Right. We are an accredited children's advocacy center through the National Children's Alliance. The National Children's Alliance, or NCA, is based out of Washington, D.C., and they oversee all of the children's advocacy centers across the country. They put forth 10 standards that children's advocacy centers must meet to be an accredited member. So that means you have to have all your ducks in a row, you have to have paperwork, but it ultimately means you're providing the best service for children. And we go through this process every 5 years to be reaccredited. And what this means is, being an accredited member, is that there's more funding opportunities. But what that means to me is that our Children's House in rural Bradford County, Pennsylvania, is providing the same level of service by providers that are trained to the same service level, to the same standard as children in Philadelphia County. And so I think that is really huge and something worth mentioning.
That is huge, and Bradford County is lucky to have this, because not all of the counties surrounding us do have that. Do you service other counties?
So we provide services to Bradford and Sullivan County, but we also offer courtesy services. So if Tioga County, PA has some cases, they're more than welcome to be referred to the center. There's only 41 children's advocacy centers in Pennsylvania. And
41.
Bradford
And
County.
Pennsylvania's a big state.
It is, yep.
Yeah.
And we're working to close the gap with our state chapter partner, our Pennsylvania Children's Advocacy Centers of Pennsylvania. So, yeah.
So, Brittany, thank you so much for the behind-the-scenes look. I'm hoping that this sheds a light on what actually happens, because you hear so many things that may not always be true. So, you guys are doing a great job here. Thank you. We really appreciate it. I'm glad you walked into Building 9 the other day and that we had an opportunity to talk so that we could shine a light on this. Let's talk about your funding. How does the funding work?
So the Children's House receives $47,000 annually from certified birth certificate copies from the state of Pennsylvania. So when you go and get a copy of your birth certificate, a portion of that comes to Children's Advocacy Centers in Pennsylvania. $47,000. We have a budget of around $417,000. And so we have a huge funding gap.
Yeah, that's 10%. That's quick math.
So that we make that up in competitive federal, state, local grants, community foundations, but it really comes down to donor support.
Okay. One of the ways that you're doing that, and the reason you came into Building 9, was that you have restaurants that try to have a day or an evening where they will give a certain amount of proceeds. You also have, I think, a good fundraiser up at Tioga Downs. What's involved there? So
our annual gratitude gala is this year on November 1st at Tioga Downs, and it's really a big way to shine a light on the work that we do. We invite all of the community is welcome to attend for a night where you learn about our services some more. You get to hear from a speaker, our keynote speaker, about a real life experience. So it's a child who has grown up and living productive, fruitful lives, much like the kids that we see here. And so it's our biggest fundraiser of the year, where there is a direct ask, and you get to see where where the contributions move the mission.
I want to touch on that just for a minute, because when I was talking to you earlier, I know that the tickets for the ball, the event, 100, 110, whatever they may be. So some people may think that is your fundraiser. That's where it stops. Okay, so I paid $100 or whatever for a ticket. You're going to use X amount of that for the food and the facilities, but that's not really the case, because the event, I mean, it's a large area, whether it be at Tioga or wherever else, they have expenses. So really, the purpose is to be able to highlight what you do to donors, and that's where you go to the direct ask, and people usually write an additional check, and that's where that fundraising starts.
Yep, they have the fund to need, where they see the programs and they invest in the programs.
Yep. That's awesome. So it just so happens to be Awareness Month, correct?
Yep.
You in CYS, Children Youth Services, just did some pinwheels. You did 120 of them. I was walking up the sidewalk with the video crew, and I says, I hope there's 120. I just glanced at it in a newspaper. I said, I hope that's not the number of cases that we have in Bradford County. But it is, isn't it?
It is. That each pinwheel in our front lawn here and over at the courthouse represent one child that walked through our doors last year.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, you know, this was supposed to be a good information piece on what you guys do, but you can't have this conversation without having a conversation about where the threat is to our children. Where is the threat? Is it the stranger danger, or is it something else?
It is something else. I know, like growing up, always been told stranger dangers, be aware, but unfortunately it's the people that we know, love, and trust that are at the face of the allegations that we're seeing. Here in Bradford County, I think around 98% of the cases that we see, it's by people that kids know.
And comes within the family?
Within the family, or really
or
close.
Associated with the family, they're close friends of the family. Pretty disturbing.
It is.
Yeah. Brittany, you said that unfortunately there was 120 cases in Bradford County in 2024. Do you have a breakdown on sexual, physical, mental, or even nourishment or living conditions? What breaks it down?
So I'd say 95% of the cases that we see here at the Children's House last year were sexual abuse allegations, or allegations that involved commercial sexually explicit materials, or human trafficking. Those are the types of cases that we predominantly see here, and that 5% would be other severe physical abuse or witness to violent crimes.
What is the definition of human trafficking? So for example, when I think of human trafficking, I think of people over in another state, in New Mexico, grabbing some kids and then getting them into prostitution or pornography. What is human trafficking? Can you enlighten me on that?
Yeah. So it's not what people normally think. They think it's the movie Taken, or
Yes.
they think big picture, but human trafficking is an exchange of money for goods and services, and people use force, fraud, and coercion for that. And so that is the definition. So here in our community, we see it. We see kids who are exchanging the service of sexual favors for people to get McDonald's, to get vape pens. And so because of that exchange, at the definition, that is human trafficking.
Yeah. So it's not just big cities or the movies.
It happens everywhere.
Yeah. You know, you often think, what can we do? And nobody knows what to do. You know, I've had businesses that have affected, that served children, and my passion has been providing places for them to have fun, be kids, whether it be at Charlie's Family Food, Troy Skateland, Paintball Arena, what have you. But we all go to different stores and we see kids that we may not think they're having the best life. We might not recognize danger, but we often wonder, and probably there's many that are like me that would like to just take them home, raise them, but we know that's not possible. I'd have 2,000 or 3,000 kids at my house, but over the years. But what we can do is try to help fund the Children's House so that it's not as difficult for them to do their job. That would be my plea to you. If you're an individual that is either a perpetrator or someone of thinking that, you know, get help, fight through it. Evil is trying to get into your life, and it's not worth it. You know what's going to happen today. You're going to end up on Facebook, you're going to end up on the newspaper, and you're going to end up in jail. So there are things that you can do. The main thing is fight it with all your might, but you're going to get caught. Don't do it. Don't affect this child. These children are our blessings, and they should be cared for, not hurt. So Brittany, out of the 120 cases that you served last year, what is the process, what's the time frame from discovery to closing of a case?
It takes time. Some cases are really quick and simple and over with, but some cases do take longer. If you think of all of the people that have to be interviewed and investigations, it takes some time. And I think that's where a lot of the misconception comes from, is that families come in thinking that their case is going to be resolved quickly.
Open and shut.
Open and shut. Like you would see, like in Law and Order SVU, they can
Yeah.
wrap a case up in an hour.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's not the case. It does take time.
Yeah.
But that's where our family advocates walk through that family, through that entire system until closure.
And it's important that it takes time. I don't know how much time is appropriate, but it's important that it takes time because you have to get it right. Sometimes it comes out the other way, that it was a non-issue. Could have been an ex trying to get at another ex, and they're using this system. Could be a variety of things, but all right. So how can people get you some much needed funds? How can we donate to the Children's House?
Checks can be written to the Children's House and sent to 64 Hospital Drive, Towanda, Pennsylvania. Or you can go online and donate at www.chcac.org. Or we're partnering with a bunch of different local restaurants this April and can contribute that way as well.
Yeah, and they can check out your calendar that's on your Facebook page and your website so that you can support them. I know at Building 9 we'll have a container within our store for the month. And we also have our POS system set up so that you can log into that and make a monetary donation of 5, 10, 20, 50, whatever you want to do. So we would ask that people consider giving. Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.